Everybody Wants Some is the most incongruous film to probably do after Boyhood, a big raunchy college comedy, because people, oh, Boyhood, what's next? I'm like, a raunchy college comedy about a bunch of horny guys. But strangely, it's sort of a continuation in some, it's a different part of me. It's like that was Eller's the sensitive, kind of thoughtful artist guy, but this is kind of who I really, I was closer to Jake.
Right,
the carousing, overconfident, athlete dude. I was a little bit of both.
Well, to me, both those films prove the magic of cinema, like how it works on us. And when it's done well,
it's powerful.
You can add significance to things like a dead bird.
Yeah.
And it's that old thing of like, the more specific you make something, the more general it becomes. And I think the Boyhood sort of proves that film has that power like no other artistic medium.
I learned that early on, and I think it was Tarkovsky's book, Sculpting in Time, which is one of the best books about cinema by the great Russian cinematic poet, Andrei Tarkovsky. But he talked about that in his own films. He made a film called The Mirror that he thought it was his most autobiographical film. But you see the film and it's pretty opaque. You have there's a woman and a man meet. They're sitting on a fence. He walks across a field. It's just beautiful poetry. And there's no real narrative. You're very moved by it, but you can't even begin to say why. And he said, well, that's the story of his parents' meeting. Everything had a very specific, oh, that was him, a stutterer. Oh, everything was directly connected to his life. And you wouldn't know it watching it, but you do sense something. And he said the power, he's seen it over and over, that if you do something that means a lot to you, that the power of cinema will translate, that feeling you're investing in, even if you're just filming this coffee cup, but this coffee cup means a lot to me because, that will, through the power of cinema alone, can have that potential to communicate something on some other level. So I take something in Boyhood, like, a kid staring at a decomposing bird. I did that, I remember it, but will that mean anything to anybody else? And I don't have to think too much about that. I go, it will.
You just know.
Yeah, I don't go, that'll be boring, we gotta keep it moving and bring in a bunch of plot points or it'll be boring. I go, no, I think the audience who will sit down, I trust that a kid staring at, that's just one of many examples. I think that'll resonate because everybody remembers a kid trying to figure out how the world works.
Well, it's life and death.
Things die, and is this thing feeling anymore? Just that early sense of more, will I be decomposing someday? You just have to have faith that the best audience will do that. And you got to pitch to the best, people who are feeling and thinking. I have an audience very small in my mind. Everything I do practically is like, I think when Ethan and Julian and I are working together, we're kind of like, oh, but if we hint that you've cheated on it, everyone will hate you. And that's when we go, not our audience. Our audience will appreciate the brutal honesty of a real long-term relationship that maybe there's been some rough patches.
Right.
Other people are like, oh no, if you do that, the audience will dislike him and you don't have a movie and we can't market it. It's like, yeah, you're right. But this mythical audience we have that we think we know it's small, but it's deep. And we have a bond with them that we're not gonna lie to them. And that's just something we feel. Studio execs get paid a lot of money to make these pronouncements, but it's just not, it's not true. I never believed it when they say, oh, if this happens, you lose the audience. It's like, well, where do you gain the audience, if you make a schematic that everything has been tested in the boardroom and, if his dog died and then we'll like him, what are the stakes? Everything's about stakes in the screenplay. The stakes are, if he doesn't get that, then he'll not achieve this. And, here come all the plot points. And I'm like, what are the stakes? It's like you're alive, You're just trying to make it to the world, and here's what you're trying. Like the stakes can be low, and yet kind of resonate, hopefully. But overall, I've been allergic to these. If you do this, the audience thinks that. It's like.
How you doing? I'm Corey Hunter, and welcome to another episode of Tips from Directors. In this clip, we watch Richard Linklater, speak about, authenticity. That's pretty much how I summed it up. So yeah, man, let's dive into it. Let's get down into it. I'm a filmmaker. I write and create my own stuff. I gained my knowledge in my experience by watching and studying and reading a bunch of stuff about script writing, about movie making, about filmmaking. And it's true, you know. If you're at home and you got a bunch of DVDs or Blu-rays and you can looking at all the commentaries, you're learning to be a filmmaker. This is what it is, all right? From a bunch of different directors. If you're on YouTube and just really diving into it, you're learning. If you're just reading books, you're learning. If you're going to film school, you're learning. If you're out there actually creating stuff, you're learning. I learned some stuff. I do see the arrogance in the art in terms of when you talk to people, the first thing they want to start talking about is bullet points. And, you know, it makes sense. We have something called structure, right? When we're creating scripts, we want to keep in pace with structure, right? The script got to make sense. It got to have a certain beat to it. And certain people found out ways to break the code. What I'm saying is certain people found the formula and they share the formula. That's why we got so many different structures, all right? They're sharing with you their formula. However, just because they're sharing with you their formula doesn't mean that's the only way it has to work. So sometimes when you're speaking to somebody else, they are judging your story based on the structure that they know, and not the structure that you're following, all right? And sometimes we can't take the structure as absolute law. Sometimes we got to take it as a guideline and then fill the rest of it out so that we can create that art. So he was speaking about filming the dead bird, a boy watching the dead bird decompose and hoping the audience get it. That's what I mean about filling things out, all right? We have to understand the rules because it's true. Like, I'm not saying that the structure doesn't matter. I'm not saying you're better than the structure. If you don't know the structure, you have to learn the structure. You got to learn how to write scripts. You got to learn the beats to it. Don't try to skip it. Is it possible to write something great without knowing it? Yes, but you should learn it because you got to know the rules to know how to break the rules. I hope that makes sense, all right? So, yes, we do have to learn the structure, but we don't have to follow it like it's law. We got to learn the structure so that we understand how scripts is made. We understand what works. And then we also have to understand what we're trying to do. We're not creating just empty commercials, right? There's a story that we want to tell. There's things that we want to show. And there's an authenticity to the stories that every individual create. And sometimes we got to deviate from the structure to keep the authenticity, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And we have to fight for that. And we can't throw away our authenticity because we're afraid the audience won't get it. We have to have faith in our audience that they will get it because we can't please everybody. And we're not trying to please everybody. We're just trying to please the people who's interested in the stuff that we're creating. All right? We're not trying to get the whole world on our side. We're just trying to get those handful of people who gets us and then communicate with them. Those people we're trying to talk to. Some people getting excluded. That's fine. Because I know usually it's a popularity contest, right? We want everybody to like our stuff. We don't like when people don't like our stuff, man. And then some people want to talk trash and it gets under your skin, right? They talk about your art. They're saying, well, you know, it ain't structured like this and then this and that. And it's like, you know, it bothers us. We can't worry about that, all right? We got to tell the stories that we're here to tell. And we can't let the structure out that little extra that we bring to it. So that's where I'm at with it today. I appreciate y'all, man. Thank you for coming out, spending time with me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, until next time, leave a comment so that we can get a discussion going. Check out the Patreon. Check out the Turtle School. That's there for you. Tools to help you learn and write and create stories. Thank you, and I appreciate you.